Well, here we are again. Jonathan Rigby speaking, author of English Gothic. I have Pete Walker with me, the director of this film, Die Screaming Marianne.
Yes, hello there.
And here we have a poster advertising our leading lady, Marianne the Hips MacDonald.
Yep, filmed in Portugal.
Yes, the Algarve, I believe.
And before it became, such a popular tourist resort. Of course, it was very... that was the time when you should have bought property down there.
We don't yet know what the mystery is, but what's happening now is part of the judge's efforts to locate his errant daughter,
Yes.
Marianne. And she's, I guess there's an implication here that she is quite an easy-going girl of the late 60s.
Yes,
who,
that's it in one, actually. She's the quintessential 60s Dolly Bird.
Yes, which Susan George, having appeared in Twinkie and films like that,
She was the quintessential. I mean, it's probably not fair to say that about Susan, the quintessential 60s Dolly Bird, but I think she she was, I suppose, what Madonna was in the 80s. I mean, she
represented the age.
She represented the age, exactly.
Yes, very sort of symbolic of this, the cusp of the late 60s, early 70s.
I mean, she was the hottest, prettiest, most newsworthy girl around.
She was certainly newsworthy, yes.
And not without talent.
Oh, well, I think she showed that in Straw Dogs, which she made shortly after this film, which I guess was a really, really, really big break.
Well, I'll tell you a story about that later, about
Straw Dogs.
About Straw Dogs, and how possibly it came about for her.
Via this movie. Kenneth Hendel. Yes.
Was one of my
repertory company.
Great face, good actor, and very early in my life, in my teenage, I had been an actor.
Yes,
and I had worked with Kenneth Hendel in Seagulls Over Sorrento.
Very famous 50s
play. I had played Lofty, and he had played the nasty petty officer.
Oh, that makes sense.
And he, I remember standing on the stage at the Intimate Theatre Palmer's Green, where one of the weeks were, and there were all these wonderful actors, and I was the lead. I was the biggest part, Lofty. And I remember watching them acting, and I was standing in the middle of the stage, and I said, God, all these people are better than me. Terrible. And Kenneth Hendel was acting his head off. And when we finished that show, I never worked again. I gave up.
So that was a kind of moment of truth.
Moment of truth.
With Kenneth Hendel on the stage?
With Kenneth Hendel on the stage.
The Intimate Palmer's Green?
At the Intimate Palmer's Green.
Ah, right. So you decided to go into...
Is it still existing, the Intimate Palmer's Green?
I don't know. David McGillivray could tell you that, because he spent some of his... one of your sometime screenwriters, David McGillivray, he had some of his formative experiences also at the Intimate Theatre Palmer's Green. It was his local theatre, I believe.
Oh, really?
But whether it's still operative,
Well, it was a professional repertory theatre in those days.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But Kenneth Hendel, and of course, when I started making films, used Kenneth Hendel.
Yes, he's a very you're right, a very striking face.
He's the late Kenneth Hendel now, I'm afraid.
Is he late?
I believe he died in Canada.
In Canada. He does seem to have gone to South Africa, because some of his later film credits, there aren't too many film credits, all seem to be located around there. Films like Fraud and Game for Vultures. He even did a South African television version of She, in which he played the part Horace Holly that Peter Cushing played in the Hammer version. But for you, as well as this, he did Man of Violence and 4 Dimensions of Greta.
He did 4 Dimensions, and he was marvellous in O'Carroll, or Cooler Carroll.
Cooler Carroll, yes. And he's got one of the most inventive sort of comb-over style hairdos. I think
that was
to grace the
before it
screen.
became fashionable.
Yes, but it's remarkable. It's a remarkable thing. No mere Bobby Charlton type number, but he is a very sort of slightly rat-faced quality he has, which is very, very striking.
Yes, a good villain face.
Yes, and a lot of your repertory company, as we've discussed with Sheila Keith, they don't tend to be picked up by other people, and it's a little bit of a mystery because his film credits are fairly sparse, apart from your movie.
Yeah,
it's a mystery. It's a shame. We go now and.
Yes, we're going now into the credit sequence,
which has been described as one of the most striking and memorable credit sequences in British cinema by your biographer.
Shot in about an hour.
Shot in about an hour. Was Susan George? She took to this. This is quintessential go-go, isn't it?
Yeah, this is shot after the film had been made. Sort of I don't know, probably a couple of weeks after we completed shooting.
She handled this without any demur, just doing her go-go kind of stuff against a red background.
She thoroughly enjoyed it. She looks as though she is.
It's fantastic, and the Cyril Ornadle's theme is blaring out.
Is very upbeat and.
Yes.
Cyril had even here again, lucky with Cyril. I would never have used Cyril normally in a horror film, and of course this, as we know, is not a conventional horror film. It's intended to be a thriller, but a great tune writer, Cyril. Well, of course, yes. I mean he wrote "If I Ruled the World," and he wrote all those wonderful, was it "Portrait of My Love" he wrote? I think he wrote that as well. I mean, but a great tune writer and marvelous composer.
And this one was written in collaboration with Hal Shaper, I believe.
And the song there was a song in this.
It's the song that comes along later, isn't it? It's not this blaring theme. It's the song.
It was written with Hal Shaper, who wrote "Softly as I Leave You,"
right.
and amongst many other hits as well.
Yeah. But,
and a pal, of course, another pal of mine, Hal Shaper.
Any relation to the actress Susan Shaper, who was in,
who was in Frightmare.
Who subsequently became an agent.
Sue Shaper
was
Hal's wife.
Right. I thought there'd be some connection.
Yes, and became. And this was sung by Kathy Green, who was Johnny Green's daughter. Yes.
Right. Yeah. But Cyril, well, that's the really, really fantastic credit sequence over, it has to be said. Cyril had been MD on the Tony Hancock show in the 50s.
Yes.
And on Sunday night at the London Palladium.
Oh yes, he would. That was his thing. I mean, he'd done Sunday night at the London Palladium, I think, from the start. What a pretty girl! Isn't she pretty?
It's very, very pretty. I mean, you can see why she was the look of 69, 70, 71. I mean, and very pretty and great figure. I mean, she was obviously the perfect person for that time.
Yeah.
But so we're now perplexed. She seems to have got married after knowing this chap for only 2 weeks.
Yes.
And we're wondering to what degree there's a sort of shotgun quality to it. Well, why is she, this free spirit has for some reason got married to this guy in record time and is already, she's about to get married to him, in point of fact. And she's already regretting it seems, even before getting married.
Well, hope you're not getting... This was a long time ago. This is 35 years ago.
Don't worry, I shan't trouble you with the plot to any great degree.
Jonathan, so if you're going into motivations and things...
motivations?
Well, you are an actor, and
well, I think the actors must have
it is your entitlement to ask a director for motivation, but
no, I'm not.
But if my memory serves me correctly, I will say that the reason that she's getting married is that it is protection. She is doing it for the reason of protection. I think it crops up. Does it not? Is there not something that if she gets married or something, isn't there something within the plot
Oh, to do with releasing the
to
judges.
reduce the judges' information and so
also
on and so
the
forth.
money that's cashed away.
So she is, she has her own agenda. Does Marianne?
Indeed. Well, don't worry, I shan't trouble you with plot points other than to indicate that there's a developing mystery involved. There's a certain degree of perplexity on the part of the audience, which of course is a way of setting up.
Establish this.
Yes, you've got a razor-sharp memory in most particulars, I have to say.
Yes,
she's.
But it is amazing when you think about it being 35 years ago.
Indeed. Well, in fact, as far as I can work out, you started filming this approximately the 20th of June, 1970.
Yeah.
Under the title Rebound.
Under the title of Rebound. Mm.
Rebound, and you started with 2 weeks in London.
Mm-hmm.
Then you moved to the Algarve,
mm-hmm.
and we'll come on to this controversy later on. By the 11th of July, you temporarily scrapped the film, but we'll move on to that for murky reasons that we'll get into later on. Yeah. So you were, yes, Susan George, in point of fact, she turned 20 during the making of this.
No, did she turn 20? I thought she turned 21. I thought she had her 21st birthday.
Well, the character turns 21.
The character turned.
But she, well, if the dates I've got here are correct, she turned 20. She was a very young thing. She was the happening thing and very young.
She was 20.
She turned 20 in the July.
Okay.
In the July.
Do you know something? Whenever anyone mentions this, I always say, "Oh, Susie was 20. Had her 21st birthday on this picture." But
well, as far as I can tell,
well, no, you're probably right. She probably was only 20. She was probably 19, and she turned 20.
Well, she was born on the 26th of July, 1950. And so the whole controversy that we'll discuss later, where you scrapped the movie briefly on the 11th of July, was just in the run-up to her 20th.
To her 20th birthday?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And supposedly in the film she's turning 21.
She's turning 21. The plot point that you referred to earlier also turns on the fact that she's turning
21.
Yes,
because, exactly.
Absolutely. Was this Marylebone Register Office?
This was not Marylebone Register Office. This was Chelsea Town Hall.
Chelsea Town Hall.
This was Chelsea Town Hall, the scene of many people's marriage, I should imagine.
Absolutely.
And Tony Sharp, the star of the later star of The House of Mortal Sin.
Right. How did you get him involved in this? He just came to you
his agent was Richard Stone, and Richard Stone used to cast a lot of my used to provide me with a lot of good people.
Well, in this film, he's doing the stuff that he's well known for, which he rather laid aside.
Playing
House of Mortal Sin. Playing an official who's simultaneously officious and strangely bumbling. It's an interesting combration.
But look at the hairstyle for an older man
with big
with the whiskers and that was.
Well, we're banging in the middle of 1970s.
Look at Chris Sanford's hairstyle and Barry Evans for that matter. But that was.
Well, Susan George was the girl for the time, and this film, it has to be said, is a film of its time.
Of its time, very much of its time.
It's the fact that it was made in 1970 is
69,
right up there on the
70.
70. You just can't miss that fact, and I think that gives it, if you'll forgive the expression, a great deal of period charm.
Is that what you'd call it?
I think so. I dislike the word dated. I think it's absurd to refer to films made in 1970 as dated. Inevitably, they're dated.
No, but
if we talk about the period charm, if you like to call it.
But I think anybody that views these films and anybody who views this package of movies from this era, I mean, I think when you tune into TCM or any of these things, you view these films and you accept that they were made in the period that they were made in, and they have the attitudes, which is most important of the time that they were made.
Well, I think there are a lot of younger viewers, I feel, who are unable to put themselves into the fact, to take the films in context. These films were made a long time ago, so watch them accordingly. I think younger viewers are so inured to the slam bang films that they see nowadays, they find it difficult. They can't watch black and white films.
No, but then you and I, or anybody else for that matter, can watch 1930s films and accept that they are made in the 30s.
Yes, and of course they have a great deal of period charm, as well as being
period charm, absolutely. But period attitudes, I think.
Yes.
and period morality.
Yes, exactly. Yes, there's a fair bit of period morality in this one. They're discovering here that, bizarrely, she's got married to the wrong man.
Yes.
She's got married to the alto saxophonist Eli Frome.
Eli Frome, whom she's only just met.
Yes.
And she's deliberately switched it because she realizes that Chris Sanford is, in it because he realizes
for his own
purposes. And in fact, as we later find out,
he is in cahoots.
He's in cahoots with the judge, her father.
Absolutely. But I believe you were disappointed with the casting on this film. In some particulars.
Well, look, I've got to be. There are several ways of looking at it. If we're just talking about from an artistic point of view, I'm certainly not unhappy with the casting of Susan George. I knew what I was buying. To a certain degree, the script was written with her in mind. I mean, look at those legs. I mean, where do you get legs like that?
Lovely, yeah.
It was written with her in mind. What I want, the overall feel I wanted for the movie was a kind of what I wanted to try and get, and I know it's the film didn't turn out in any way, but it was a kind of a Gildery kind of
like
thing.
Gilder, yes.
That's
another of your 40s favourites.
One of my 40s noir favourites. And I mean, I'm not saying I wanted to remake Gilder or anything like that. It was, but I wanted that kind of interplay between the male and the female characters.
Yes. The intrigue between them.
Yes, and that kind of love-hate thing between them, which really, as it so happened, didn't end up in the script, but that's what I was kind of looking for, and in that respect, I shouldn't have. I mean, Susan George, fine. I shouldn't have had Barry Evans. I should have gone for a much more masculine kind of guy. I should have gone with Ian McShane. Who was
possibly rather more expensive.
Well, McShane was hot at that time. He'd done If It's Tuesday, It Must Be Belgium, and he was hot. I mean, I knew him. I mean, he's been a mate for 35 years or more. But
you've also mentioned Patrick Moore as a
more
the type.
Somebody that kind of actor.
There's a gentleness about Barry Evans
which wasn't what I wanted, which is not what I wanted for this. It wasn't really. This wasn't the kind of movie. I didn't want to make it a kind of teenagery movie.
But he was very hot at the time. After Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush, and of course, big Thames TV sitcom.
Which is why I bought him. And he was the hot young leading man at the time.
Yeah. Well, Doctor in the House, in fact, had started in July '69, and so he was very, very hot. And he was going to go on to a sequel called Doctor at Large, which was in '71. Yeah. And he was a big sitcom star, but I believe he felt kind of trapped by that image, as it turned out, because he got.
Well, Barry was a complicated young man. I have to say, a very complicated young man, and you say, he felt trapped in this and trapped. I think that Barry felt trapped in so many things. He was not easy. He was not an easy.
He had a reputation for being difficult. At this
yes, he
time,
did. Yes, he did. And I believe in later it got worse and worse because Stanley used him later. Stanley Long.
Adventures of a Taxi Driver.
Exactly, used him later. And
yes, that was more or less the end of his film career. A mere 5 years after this. Well, yes, we'll say more about Barry Evans later on. Do you have any recollections of where this was filmed?
Fulham,
right?
Yeah. Do you know something? We were talking about Stanley Myers.
The
composer Stanley Myers. And when you see the interior of the flat that they sort of shack up in, that was Stanley's flat in Fulham.
Really?
Yes.
Good heavens, Stanley Myers' flat. But
of course he hadn't written any stuff.
He hadn't started composing for you.
He hadn't started composing.
But he was already a friend.
But he was a friend.
Yes, right, I see. I see. Well, here we are. This is one of the things that places this film in 1970. There are quite a few little points like this. They sit in this cafe and there's a poster for Conduct Unbecoming at the Queen's Theatre.
Well,
which was filmed.
It just
later
happened
on.
to be there.
It just happened to be there. But there are quite a number of these things in this film. There's Hallo Dolly, prominently displayed at a West End cinema. There's you feature this one quite prominently, a copy of Melody Maker with The Doors' open Isle of Wight on it, i.e. the Isle of Wight Festival.
Right.
And there are a few of these little things which do place it very firmly in a time and a place, which again, if you'll forgive the expression again, emphasises the film's period charm.
Yeah.
Of course, at the time, the period charm obviously was neither here nor there because it was a contemporary movie. But now I think it's acquired that, which gives it an extra layer. I think all old films acquire that extra layer because they're.
But I think films that were made with that sort of 60s free flavour, with that sort of Dolly Bird era.
Yeah,
I think they really haven't stood the test of time. I mean, it's more
a lot of them have.
Oh, I mean, but even the highly thought of films. I mean, I don't know whether anybody's seen Darling recently.
I haven't seen it recently.
Well,
does
if
it not
you
stand
look
out?
at it, I mean, it looks terrible. It looks dated. It looks, but I remember it was so sort of avant-garde at the time. I mean, it was all sort of.
Yeah. Well, it was.
Or Georgie Girl, or any of those films. They just somehow or other just didn't.
They're curling up at the edges a bit.
Well, they are.
They're well. These were the swinging London movies.
Yes.
Which I think have been pejoratively called red bus movies because inevitably to indicate you're in London, filmmakers at that time had red double-decker buses zooming around Trafalgar Square.
And they exported a few to Hollywood so they could put them into the
absolutely. Absolutely, but we do get the impression.
See, we did major on the Susan George legs, if you'll.
Absolutely. Well, the legs and everything else, we do get the impression of a free spirit.
And yes, exactly. And Susie was very conscious of it, and very kind of what what are you doing to me? Can't I wear some skirts?
Oh well, she's well. The turn of the 70s, we're in hot pants, are the happening thing to wear. So it's exactly the way to go, I think. But again, I think there's this area of the film. We're in London. We know that there's some strange connection to odd doings in Portugal. We're not at all sure why. We're wondering. We're not impatient exactly, but we're wondering. Presumably we're going to go back to Portugal, as we do, and we're wondering exactly what the nature of this mystery is. Well, I know I was. Maybe I'm just not a very attentive viewer.
Well, that's the intention. You don't spell it all out in the first two reels, and
keep people guessing.
One hopes that you're going to keep everybody guessing.
Yeah. So you'd presumably seen Susan George in, I don't know, films like Spring and Port Wine and Twinkie.
I don't think had she made Spring and Port Wine at that time?
She had, yeah. I think she'd just made it.
Just done Twinkie, but it hadn't come out. She'd done a picture called All Neat in Black Stockings.
Oh yes,
which was a very interesting picture, and she'd done another picture with Michael York. Now, what was that?
In the late 60s. Ooh.
Yes, she'd done, which she was very. She'd done the Looking Glass War.
Yes, she had. She'd done a lot already, and she's not quite 20.
Exactly,
remarkable.
Exactly.
She'd started as a child actress.
She'd started in CFF films,
Children's Film Foundation films, and subsequently one of her first adult. I say adult. She was meant to be about 16. Parts was in a Michael Reeves horror called The Sorcerers, in which Ian Ogilvy stabbed her to death with a pair of scissors. But a very nice. Performance, it's kind of maiden performance, as it were. Even then, that was back in early '67. So she'd done, and then progressing already to bigger movies, much bigger movies like The Looking Glass War.
Yeah.
So she was the girl of the time.
She certainly was, and she was never out of the papers. She was much sought after by everyone. I mean, all the young guys wanted to, I mean,
indeed, yes.
It was I mean, she was. I'm trying to think of somebody
comparable nowadays. Well, she was still living with her parents at the time, I believe, in Wraysbury.
In Wraysbury.
She was brought up in Wraysbury, which is in Berkshire, not too far from Windsor and, you know, places like that.
Well, you know, her mother and her father, I think, were also, you know, sort of half managing her. She had a very good agent who was a good friend of mine.
Who was that?
Called Hazel Malone.
Yes.
Who also had all the hot young people at that time. She had Judy Geeson. She had most of the men. Clockwork Orange, Malcolm McDowell, all those.
Well, there was a whole generation.
And Chris Sanford.
Chris Sanford, we'll talk about him later on. But Barry Evans was in love with Judy Geeson, apparently, around this time.
Well, because they did Mulberry Bush.
Yes, because they'd done Mulberry Bush. But Mulberry Bush was like a kind of... Mulberry Bush, you've got a kind of almost a repertory company in that film of all the happening young people that were going to dominate British screens for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yes, Adrian Poster,
Judy Geeson.
White.
And of course, Barry Evans was the lead.
Yeah.
It was his big breakthrough movie. It's a surprise, really, that Susan George wasn't in it. Am I right there? I don't think she was.
She wasn't, but
yes,
really, she wasn't that. She was a little too classy, wasn't she, for that kind of...
She was a well-brought-up Wraysbury girl, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
And there was something very squeaky
there was
clean
something-
about
there
it.
was-
She was
there was
very
something-
sexy and yet squeaky clean.
Yes, there wasn't
Interesting
something
combination.
East End. There wasn't, you know, there wasn't nothing East End about her. You know, there was
Absolutely.
she was unique. Susan.
She certainly wasn't Adrian Poster.
And this was, of course, Mrs. Peter Cook.
Yes, she was going to be Mrs. Peter
She was
Cook.
going to be Mrs.
Yes.
Peter Cook. In fact, Peter came down on the location with us.
Did he?
And,
I was going to ask about that.
Yes, he was on the location with us all the time.
I believe
and was great moral encouragement to me. I mean, he was when I had my problems on the picture, Peter was. Peter and Leo Genn were both rock supportive.
Yeah.
Yes, really
Well,
nice.
she subsequently married the designer Sean Kenny.
Yeah,
I believe. But yes, she was. I think around 73. They finally got married. I believe. Judy Huxtable and Peter Cook.
No, Sean Kenny was Judy Geeson.
You sure? Oh.
Wasn't she? Yes. Sean Kenny was Judy Geeson.
Oh, well, this is the British Film Institute. There must be at fault there because they seem to think she married Sean Kenny later.
Maybe she did.
Well, maybe listeners can
I don't
rush...
think so. I don't think so. No, I don't think Judy Huxtable was...
Well, maybe any listeners to this who are sufficiently worried about it can look at the IMDb and find out.
Yeah, okay.
But
no, I mean, personal lives, I never went into,
Yeah. But Judy Huxtable was a former Deb of the Year, I believe.
Yes.
She'd been a
Yes, and she'd also
debutante
done
of
a
the year.
picture. She'd also done a picture with 2 or 3 other girls, all of whom I knew at that time, and were all 60s,
Yes.
sort of top models of that period.
Yes.
There was Judy Huxtable, there was Marianne Audio.
Oh, yeah.
There was now who was the lady? Now she's married. Who's the was it? No, it wasn't Jo Howard. I thought it was the girl because she's married to one of the Stones.
I always think they look so vulgar.
There was a picture called The Untouchables.
The Touchables.
The Touchables.
The Touchables.
Not the
Not
Untouchables. That's right. Yes.
They're eminently touchable.
Now, tell me who the other girls were.
Well, you've got me
There was
there.
Martine Bezic,
Martine Bezic.
Martine
of course,
Bezic.
Yes.
Marianne Audio. There were 4 of them. Judy Huxtable and the pretty girl. I knew her. Oh, God.
Real 60s name?
No. I'll tell you exactly what. Kathy Howard.
Kathy Howard.
Kathy Howard.
Kathy Howard.
Was it?
Oh.
No, not Kathy. Kathy Simmons.
Okay,
Kathy
I know who Kathy
Simmons.
Howard is, but
No.
Kathy Simmons.
Kathy
right.
Simmons. Kathy
And
Simmons.
they were the Touchables. Well, in point of fact, she didn't do many films, as it turned out. She did an amicus psychological horror called The Psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
She appeared in a delightful featurette called Les Bicyclettes de Belsize.
Belsize, yes, made by. Who made Les Bicyclettes de Belsize? Well-known director, wasn't it?
French?
No.
Well, you've got me there.
Was it Nick Rowe?
No, I don't think
Was it
so.
Nick Rowe?
But she'd appeared with Marty Feldman in Every Home Should Have One. She would subsequently appear with Christopher Sanford, oddly enough, in a Frankie Howard vehicle called Up the Chastity Belt.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked for Robert Hartford Davis in Nobody Ordered Love.
Oh, right. Okay, that was later.
That was a little bit later. But just before this, and horror fans will remember this vividly, she'd appeared in another Amicus film, an Amicus AIP film called Scream and Scream Again,
Right.
in which she'd been killed by Michael Gothard, and she played a real 60s disco dolly in that film. This, now, we really ought to talk about this scene. I mean, I don't want to go into motivations again, but as regards suppressed... what's the word I'm looking for? Suppressed incestuous feelings.
Precisely.
This scene is a corker, and beautifully played by the pair of them.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, because we had to pare it down.
Really?
Yes, it was John Trevelyan at the time.
Of course,
and
yes.
he made me pare it down and take out dialogue. And when later it was shown on television, people kept ringing me up and saying, "What the bloody hell?
What the hell was that about?"
Yeah,
I think it's quite clear.
Well, yes, but it was much stronger than this, and of course, Leo, bless him, he really wanted to enlarge on it,
Oh yes,
Don't you think?
Nice
that
meaty
might be a
role.
Good idea if we played this in bed. I said,
He wasn't daft.
I said, I don't think Mr. Trevelyan will allow that, Leo.
Well, Trevelyan was soon to depart the British Board of Film Censors at this
Not
time.
before time.
You didn't.
No, I just thought he was a poor censor.
Right. Well, he was
I'm
dealing with a
offensive
very
censor.
tempestuous era, wasn't he? The 60s. He was all right there throughout that, wasn't he?
Well,
And,
I suppose, yes, in fairness to him,
well, I hold no brief for
Madam
Trevelyan. I just point that out.
Madam Festival of Light was, sort of at her.
Mary Whitehouse.
Mary
and Co.
Whitehouse,
Yes.
of course, was at
We're
her,
at their most
was at her-
strident.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there were all these, there were all these people around too, that politicians around who were backing her and saying,
Lord
she's
Longford,
right,
of course.
Yes.
Yes, Lord Longford. He was the Festival of Light, I guess. Now let's talk about Leo Genn a bit, because I have to say he gives a very nice performance in this, and he's got the most Mephistophelian, if I can use that word, devilish eyebrows you can imagine, and he does give you that as the kind of bent judge, the bent, again, and as in a number of your films, the bent older authority figure who abuses his position and power.
Yeah.
And he seems to, I don't know, corruption seems to seep out of him. He's beautifully cast and beautifully plays it.
Well, he's a lovely old hand, isn't he, Leo Genn? And what a career he had behind him.
Yes.
I mean, people used to rather cruelly say, "Oh, he went to Hollywood because he was the sort of poor man's Ronald Colman," but he wasn't. I mean, Leo Genn has played opposite and starred opposite some of the greatest legendary leading ladies, Olivia de Havilland in The Snake Pit, which was a huge, great success.
That was him going over to Hollywood in the late 40s.
Exactly. Rosalind Russell in The Velvet Touch.
Yes.
He did Quo Vadis opposite Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
He was a major Hollywood star. Not here again we've talked about it on other films. Not somebody that would
Open
a picture.
No, but just a very charismatic, very useful,
very useful
older
actor
character,
and highly thought of. Particularly, I mean, people like Rosalind Russell would have asked for him. Would have said, I want Leo Genn as my leading man on this.
Yeah. Well, at this time he was approaching 65.
Yes.
He was born in 1905 and died in 1978. And he had such a distinctive, velvety voice that he was much in demand as a narrator. And in fact, he narrated a number of documentaries relating to the coronation. He was that highly. Elizabeth is Queen was the title of one of them.
And he was the first lawyer first British civilian to walk into Belsen.
Really?
After the war. Officially. I mean, he was the first official British person to walk into Belsen.
That can't have been pleasant.
No, it wasn't.
No.
He was a lawyer. But I'm not sure of all the
details.
The details on it.
Yeah. Well, yes. He had appeared in lots of very distinguished films. He started age 30, but he appeared in Henry. You've mentioned a number: Henry V, The Way Ahead, Caesar and Cleopatra,
The Wooden Horse.
The Wooden Horse, Green for Danger.
Green for Danger, of course, with Sally Gray.
No Place for Jennifer. Moby Dick,
Yeah.
55 Days at Peking.
The Red Beret with Alan Ladd.
That's right. However, in the latter part of the 60s, he was doing more bread and butter type stuff in exploitation movies. One for Harry Alan Towers with Christopher Lee called Circus of Fear.
Yeah.
And just before this, he'd worked with Christopher Lee again in a Jess Franco film.
Oh yes. Well, that was also
the Bloody Judge. That was also. He was also behind that. Yeah. And round about this time, he's also appearing in a Lucio Fulci film called Lizard in a Woman's Skin.
Yes.
So again, he's one of those character actors who moves into slightly more exploitation type movies because he's got sufficient name.
He did a picture with Stanley Baker immediately after this. He went off to Italy to do it, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was he and Stanley Baker.
Right.
There's a forgotten actor for you.
That's strangely forgotten. Sir Stanley Baker, and
Sir
yet
Stanley Baker,
strangely forgotten.
And
they put out Zulu now with Michael Caine headlining it.
Yes,
and Stanley
poor
Baker
old
in the
Stanley
small
Baker,
print.
exactly.
When in fact he was the prime mover behind the whole thing,
Yes.
and top bill. It's ridiculous. But Frightmare, 4 years after this, was more or less Leo's last credit.
Last
pretty
picture.
much his last credit.
Yeah, and a lovely man, and was a good friend, and married to Maggie, who was
Margaret Wedlick,
who was Hitchcock's casting director.
Ah, yes. Well, I have to say, he's so effective in this film that I felt a great disappointment when he was kind of written out in the old car over the cliff top bit that we're going to come to later. I felt rather arbitrarily written out, and it's always a shame when, you know, a really effective actor suddenly passes him.
Yes.
I have to say, Judy Huxtable is painfully thin.
Yes.
In this film.
Yes, I think she was always slim. I don't know whether there was a problem with Judy.
Well, you don't actually, apart from this scene, you don't actually dwell on her
body.
On her body in the way that you do on Susan George's. I just wondered if you thought that was a problem because.
I think we were all very aware that she was slim, but I mean, it certainly wasn't. She certainly didn't mind wearing a bikini, or you know what I mean. She wasn't conscious of it.
Right. But I mean, it's the whole Twiggy kind of quality carried over into the 70s, I guess. I noticed Leo Genn is stationary on his horse here, while the other two are actually riding.
Well,
is there a reason for that?
Yes. Well, they had the docile horses. Well, Judy didn't, because Judy was a fabulous horsewoman. But Chris Sanford somehow, you know, in his as actors are, you know, he had selected the docile horse.
Very clever.
And poor old Leo Genn had been left with Fire Charger, you know. So I think it was just tie Leo's horse down.
Again, here we're thinking, I hate to use this word again, I seem to remember using it in House of Mortal Sin. We've got a strange menage going on. What exactly is the relationship between these characters? We're intrigued to know what the hell is going on.
That guy on the left there who just did
that, yeah.
You know, that was the fellow who split his throat. Who was the pop singer who split his
PJ
throat?
Proby.
PJ Proby.
That was PJ Proby.
That was PJ
doing that
Proby.
tiny little
thing.
Walk on. Yeah. Good heavens. Here's an actor called Martin
Wildeck.
Wildeck, is it? I was wondering how that's pronounced.
Well,
Wildeck.
I don't know. I always call him Martin Wildeck. It could be Martin Wildeck. I'm sure people do. I'm sure he doesn't mind what you call him as long as you book him.
Well, he's been dead for 16 years.
Oh, has he?
But he did a number of things for you. Kulik Carroll, Four Dimensions of Greta, Tiffany Jones.
Yeah.
And again, one of those very useful actors. And one of those faces you recognize and you don't.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Yeah.
Can't quite put the name. But I think fantasy fans and horror fans will remember him from films like Time Slip and Night Must Fall, the Albert Finney remake of Night Must Fall. But he was prolific on television. Danger Man, The Saint, Van der Valk, The Sweeney, even Fawlty Towers.
Mm-hmm.
But he was. But yes, he appeared for you 4 times in total. So
yes.
Again, one of those dependable guys. Come in, do the job.
Yeah.
And he creates here quite a nice.
This is a scene that a lot of people. It's been brought up many times actually, as a very sort of significant piece of direction. I mean, I don't think it was intended to be that way. It was a difficult scene to do because you had to, without anything being said, you had to infer menace and threat and atmosphere, and it was very difficult because there was no dialogue.
Yeah. Well, people have referred to this whole sequence as being quite Hitchcock-like. The wrong man.
Well, it had to be. Yes, it had to
the
be.
wrong man who's been picked up by two mysterious guys,
Yeah.
and he gradually realizes that they intend to kill him.
Yes, it's North by Northwest, isn't it? It's
In a sort of, London bedsit kind of territory. Yes, it is effectively done. And Martin Wildeck does create a very good moment when he's stabbed on the stairs and lolls over the banister in that rather grotesque way as the Barry Evans character makes his escape. Can you tell us anything about the other policeman here, the younger one, John Lorrimore?
John Lorrimore. No, I used him before as well. Another useful actor, another useful character. One used to see him crop up in quite a lot of things. You know, if you look at him, he's the kind of guy that you would see in police series. You know, either as the crime boss, or as a tough, uncompromising copper. But I think, as I say, I think he did one other film with me, which I can't remember. But apart from that, I know nothing more about him. Good face.
Good face. Yes, the clothesline, very good at tension in the clothesline, indicating what might be in store for Barry Evans. Absolutely. Was this film came directly after Kulik Carroll, I believe.
Yes.
But it's more in the vein of the film you made before that, Man of Violence.
Yes.
Was this a deliberate moving away from the sort of sex-oriented films, or to make something more glamorous and more saleable on a more mainstream basis?
I thought I'd done what needed to be done with Kulik Carroll, and. In the early sex films or sex comedies that I made, in those days you would sell a film on its title. I mean, School for Sex or Strip Poker or any of those kind of for men only. but I thought at the end of Kulik Carroll. I mean, I'm answering your question in a very long way, but
sorry.
I thought I'd done it with Kulik Carroll. I thought I'd
said all you needed to say in that department.
And you couldn't go back to just having girls running around in topless, as in School for Sex. And so I had to move on. And there weren't many pictures being made, as you say. The British movie industry was in the doldrums at this particular time, and this filled that gap of the more conventional film.
Yeah. Well, talking of the British film industry, I can give you another snapshot of it at this time. Summer 1970, Get Carter was being made under the title Carter.
Yeah.
Joseph Losey was making The Go-Between.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Russell was making The Devils. Dad's Army was being made into a film.
Yeah.
Unman, Wittering and Zygo was being filmed. Hammer were making Countess Dracula at Pinewood and Creatures the World Forgot in Africa. But again, that was it. That was more or less it, and you.
Yeah.
So yes, it was pretty parlous already, because it is at this time, in fact, that the American majors had just gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. 69.
That's right.
They were off.
That's right.
The Vietnam War.
And well, not only that, they didn't know what they were doing here. They made the most awful bunch of films.
Well, lots of those Swinging London movies.
All those a lot of that, but also a lot of other stuff that was just a complete waste of time. And the studios, who were in trouble anyway, were losing so much money.
Did you have strong feelings about the other kind of movies that were coming out, or were you happy to plough your own furrow independently?
Well, it wasn't really my place to have any for or against feelings for anybody else's movies. I mean, I was perhaps too busy trying to guard my own image, really.
Well, you mentioned that your sex films had very saleable titles.
Yeah.
That the title alone would get the requisite audience right in. Well, it has to be said, this film has got a great title.
Terrific
Die
title.
Screaming Marianne.
Yeah.
I mean, having said that, it does rather suggest you're going to see a horror movie,
Yes,
I
it
think,
does.
which the film clearly isn't,
Mhm.
as it turns out. But it is a great title, and of course matched again to that great title sequence that we saw earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about the release of this film.
Mhm.
It was released in a double bill called The Ultimate in Suspense and
Horror, yes.
The suspense was you.
Yes.
The horror
That
was a
Dracula
Spanish
versus Frankenstein.
Yes, a Spanish-Italian film
With
Michael
Michael
Rennie. Yes, and of course Spain's own horror star Paul Naschy in his werewolf character, actually called Los Monstros del Terror. But yes, it came out here as Dracula versus Frankenstein.
Right.
How did that come about? That rather odd pairing.
Well, I think it was just a film they bought in. Don't forget that there was British quota in those days.
Yeah.
I think we were 70% of the bill, and everything was double bill in those days. I mean, you always had if it wasn't a feature, you had a second feature with it. It was very seldom that a film went out on its own as it does now. I mean, in fact, as is the rule now. You know, in those days, you had to have two films, and so there were either the little 60-minute quota quickies, or you know, the American equivalent, or they were double bills, and usually it was double bills because it just looked good value, and the programs lasted.
But it was good value. I mean,
and the programs lasted 3.5 hours or 3.25 hours. You know, because you had a newsreel too, believe it or not, or something else.
Something along those lines.
You had your trailers and you had your ads, and so, you know, you were talking about a 3.25 hour program. I think in the case of Dracula versus Frankenstein, it was released by London Independent Distributors, who were Dimitri de Grunwald.
Oh yes.
Anatole de Grunwald's brother.
Right.
That was his company. And they released it. And I think the Dracula versus Frankenstein film was just a foreign film that had been dubbed, that they'd brought in.
Yeah.
It was just brought in at a flat rate.
Yeah.
So that was I mean, you know, on the face of it, it looked a good value bill. I don't know whether you've actually seen the poster for it. I have a copy of the poster somewhere.
I've seen the poster for it. You see the image of Susan George in her go-go moment.
That's right.
Coupled with some staring eyes
etc.
And you know, Paul Naschy with the furry face or whatever for Dracula versus Frankenstein.
But it wasn't well distributed, and you know, it came in at a time. It came in at a time when, as I say, you know, the British industry really, or just cinema industry, had hit an all-time low. I mean, cinemas were closing up, you know, by the dozen daily.
Yeah. Your DP on this, your cinematographer, Norman Langley, had done Man of Violence for you, and many years later would do House of the Long Shadows for
Absolutely,
you.
yeah.
He also he worked a great deal on the Sweeney for television.
Yes.
And he also did that Michael Caine version of Jekyll and Hyde in 1990 for television.
Yeah.
For his sins.
And it ultimately did I think maybe he's retired now, but he did Poirot as well.
Yes.
Some of those early Poirots, as did Peter Jessup, of course.
Peter Jessup became your kind of cinematographer of choice, it seemed.
Yes. Oh, you know, he was. I mean, because they were like family. I mean, all and Peter O'Connor, my sound recordist. I mean, they were all family, really.
Yeah, all part of the team.
They were. Well, it was more than a team. I mean, they were
a family.
Yeah, they were a family. Yeah, we were a family that went out and made a movie.
Is there what's the significance? Oh, a bit of split screen here.
Yes, that was fashionable in those days. It had been done on a couple of pictures before, and it wasn't scripted that way, but you did it to, you know,
some visual interest.
Some visual interest.
Well, of course,
it doesn't work now. It looks so terribly dated, but in those days it was.
Well, Brian De Palma loved it. After this, he did quite a lot of it.
Yes, he
films
did.
like Sisters and Carrie as well. I seem to remember.
Yes, he did.
What's the significance of that working title, Rebound? Is there one?
Not really.
I guess it's related to the slightly labyrinthine
marriage
plot.
On the Rebound, wasn't it?
Yes, I suppose so. Right.
I don't know.
I think you were better off with Die Screaming Marianne.
Much better off with Die Screaming Marianne.
Yeah.
I mean, it was never. It was only a working title. I think it was actually written on the script that it was Rebound in brackets working title close brackets.
Yes. So obviously, even at that stage, one thought we've got to change.
Oh
it.
yes, it's.
Yeah, we've got to change this title. Now, Christopher Sanford, who's the guy in the yellow shirt here with Barry Evans, he had already. He was 31 here, and he'd already had a remarkable career as both an actor and a singer and a record producer.
Yes, that had all really stemmed from the fact that he had been a running character in playing a rock and roll singer in Coronation Street.
Yes. Yes,
and so right. From the popularity,
he cut a real disc.
He cut a real disc.
Yes,
as often happened. I mean,
yeah, of course. Yes. Well, he played Walter Potts in Coronation Street, and then at some stage they decided, because they apparently just on the offset he was playing his guitar. Yeah. They decided, let's make him a pop star or an aspirant pop star, and so he changed his name. Walter Potts changed his name to Brett Falcon, and off the back of it, as you say, Christopher released a disc called Not Too Little, Not Too Much, which was quite a hit, I believe. And then he became a record producer, particularly of French and Belgian artists, and he was a DJ on Radio Caroline. But his background is not dissimilar to yours, because you're the son of a comedian,
and
Sidney
he was
Walker,
the son of Sandy
Sanford, who was also Canadian, and your mother was, I believe, a Gaiety girl.
Yeah, well, no, she was I don't know, she wasn't actually a Gaiety girl. She was a C.B. Cochrane young lady. One
of Cochrane's young ladies.
Yeah.
Well, Christopher Sanford's great aunt, as he pointed out in his biographies around this time, was a Gaiety girl, and he'd gone to the Corona Stage School, started acting age 16, toured with Jack Buchanan of all people.
Yes,
mm.
Yes. Jack Buchanan was my father's manager.
Really?
Mm. When my father was
Sidney Walker's manager. Sid Walker's manager. Is a lovely actor called Alan Curtis.
Alan Curtis, who worked several times, was married at that time to Yana, a singer called Yana.
Oh yes.
Do you remember Yana?
Not offhand.
Don't remember Yana.
Oh,
Yana was a big television star, very glamorous blonde television star.
But you used him several times, but particularly memorably in 4 Dimensions of Greta on a massage table. That seems.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, by the way, we're in your hometown again, Brighton.
We are in Brighton. Really in Brighton.
There we are.
We are in Brighton Station.
And there certainly isn't a cinema that close to the station anymore. But the cinema was showing 2 films, The Lawyer and Ned Kelly. Again, films locating us bang in the middle of 1970. But Alan Curtis, I think he was a really effective actor. He often appeared in things like Whoops Baghdad with Frankie Howard and things like that. And of course, he's very memorable in Carry On Abroad.
That's right. He did a lot of comedy stuff. In fact, I'll tell you what he was. I'll tell you what he used to do as well. He virtually used to do every year at the Palladium, playing the bad robber or playing, sort of
Baron Hardock's henchman.
Exactly.
Maybe he graduated to Baron
That's
Hardock.
Right. So he was a light entertainment man, really.
But
as were a lot of people on my movies.
Yeah, a very good actor.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't. I mean, little. There's the Melody Maker cover, by the way. Doors open, Isle of Wight. Okay. But just a tiny little scene there. But he establishes very quickly why Susan George is well advised to say, let's forget it, because obviously he's employing these, what I guess nowadays would be pole dancers or something, for his own reasons. But he had a very impressive set of sideburns and was always good value.
Yeah.
He's particularly funny in Carry On Abroad as the guy who imprisons the entire Carry On team in their resort.
He was in the Flesh and Blood show too.
Yes, that's right.
In the Flesh and Blood show. No, he was one of the
one of the gang. Yeah. But again, on the comeback, you were asking yourself, why the devil did you go to Brighton, or rather Rottingdean? And again, we've just gone to Brighton there for Marianne's brief escape.
Yes.
You decided to take her to Brighton.
Yes, do you know, I'd forgotten all about that, and it wasn't until Steve Chibnall reminded me about it, and I said, no, we didn't go to Brighton to do Die Screaming Marianne, but he was right, we did.
There it is, yeah, that was Brighton, all right.
Why? What was the call?
What possessed
What was the call to Brighton? God knows.
Well, she had to go somewhere, didn't she? And it is within...
It's a long way to go, though. I mean, we could have mocked it up someplace else, I guess.
I guess. I guess. But I guess it's quite believable because people do often just from London, they do take day trips down to Brighton or longer, I guess. Let's talk about the controversy that was stirred up halfway through filming this.
Well, you read the.
Well, I've got the
press,
original.
You've got press cuttings. I
mean,
mean,
you made a big press thing out of it. I hope these papers ruffling around aren't going to.
Absolutely intentional.
Indeed.
But you know, we actually made the front page, the headlines. We made the headlines of the Daily Mirror.
Yes, I've got that one.
You've got
and the Daily Mail.
Actually, there was.
There was one that was actually on the front. Yeah, yeah.
There was. No, we actually did headlines.
Yeah.
On 2 of the tabloids, and we made every other paper.
Well, there's 2 here. The Daily Mail, 11th of July, 1970. Yeah. Film producer Peter Walker has scrapped work on a new film after a row with the star, 19-year-old Susan George. He flew into London from Portugal yesterday and said the situation became impossible. Miss George, star of Twinkie and Spring and Port Wine, had been signed for the leading part in Mr. Walker's thriller Rebound. But after a series of disagreements, Mr. Walker flew back to London and said, the film is abandoned. There was an argument over which camera I should use. It was the culmination of a situation that existed in the work on the film, and as the situation was, it seemed apparent to me it was unlikely that the film would be finished. The answer was to cut our losses and abandon it completely. And you claim here to have lost a 5-figure sum by scrapping it. Whereas Susan George, in this particular article, sort of is perplexed. Last night at her hotel in the Algarve, Miss George said that it had all been a misunderstanding. We're completely bemused. There was no big feud. Really, there wasn't. There was no row about cameras. We had a discussion about something to do with the scene. Admittedly, we did not agree. I did not walk off the set. I was upset, and to stop myself getting more upset, I walked over to the restaurant to talk to some other actors. That was her response.
Well, you know, one can't dwell on it too much, really. I mean, really, I can't reiterate more than is written there. Other than the fact that, of course, it was obviously I didn't scrap the picture. I had no intention of scrapping the picture. I told everybody, with the exception of my production manager and Leo Genn and Peter Cook, who were my confidants. I said, because I said to them, "How am I going to get control of this picture again?" See, we've got to remember that we were talking here about, I didn't realise Christopher Sanford was 31 then. I thought he was in his 20s, but I was, you know, hardly any more than that. And there were a lot of young people. All my crew at that time were very young. And I was starting to get a situation where there was without going into the details, and any director who's directed more than 2 or 3 pictures will know exactly the way it is. You get into a situation where you're having. I was having difficulty getting them on the set. I mean, you know, they were just being difficult for the sake of being difficult because they were winding each other up. The 3 people that we're watching on the screen now.
The 3 youngsters.
Yes, I don't know what was going on between them or whatever. You know, I mean, poor old Susie took the blame because she was the star of the picture, and she was the one that
made the best copy.
Made the best copy.
Yeah.
But I said to Leo and to Doreen Merriman. Now, Doreen Merriman was Freddie Francis's ex-wife, and she was a lady of considerable experience as a production manageress. And we got into a huddle, and I said, you know, what are we going to do to get control of this picture again? And I even said to Peter, "Don't tell Judy this." I said, "I'm going to." It was a Friday night. I said, "I'm going to abandon the picture." I said, I'm going to go over the top. I'm going to overreact, and I'm going to cancel the picture.
Yeah.
And I said, I've booked already on the flight back on Friday evening. I called a photographer who was called Ben Jones, who was a newspaper photographer. He was like a sort of, used to do all the glamour girls, and he used to do a lot of publicity for my picture. I called him. I said, Ben, I'm engineering this thing. I've got problems on the picture. I'm cancelling it.
Apparently,
he said, "What?" Yes. So he said, "Right," and he got all the press. When I got off the plane, it was like, you know, the press were unbelievable. They were
You were
all swarmed, waiting for me as I got off the plane.
Well, in fact, the
and so I did this. I knew I'd lose a day's shooting on the Monday.
Yeah.
But
just to put the frighteners on them.
I put the frighteners on. So we got the story in the press, you know, and I flew them back on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And I went into my office. I mean, I made myself unavailable on the Sunday.
Yeah.
On the Monday, I went into my office and I just waited for the phones to ring.
The panic calls.
The panic calls from the agents.
From the agents. Oh, what's going on? Yes. Well, actually,
and by 4 o'clock on Monday, we were all back in the Algarve.
So a mission accomplished.
Mission. We had red eyes. We had tears. But mission was accomplished. But you know, it was Susie that took the brunt of it. But I have to say, in retrospect, it was not Susie's fault. They were winding her up.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, it's all politics, isn't it? Very often on these occasions. Well, you were a little bit more explicit in the Daily Mirror. You said, "I am not going to be told what to do by a 19-year-old actress." You said, there had been a complete lack of understanding between himself and Miss George, who played the schoolgirl sexpot in Twinkie. Mr. Walker said that she had objected to certain techniques and methods of filming he wanted to use. He added, "My production manager asked Sue if she considered herself more technically efficient than the film crew. At this, she stormed off and said she was going for a swim. I've not seen her to talk to since."
That's true, actually.
Miss George's agents in London, the woman you just mentioned, said they were surprised by the news of the walkout. "We knew that Susan and Christopher Sanford, another member of the cast, were flying back to London, but understood that it was due to internal production difficulties." Mr. Walker said he had lost a substantial sum of money. "I hope to recast the film and try again later in the year." This was big, sort of empty threat, but very effective.
Yeah,
very effective.
Well, no, I mean it was
not an empty threat.
No,
but
I mean,
it was a bogus threat, but
Hazel,
it had its effect.
Yes, Hazel had a son called Cavan who was very clever at sort of, you know, very politically adept, sort of, if you like, a Peter Hain of the Peter Hain of the movie industry. He was very clever at sort of making up
manipulating
the story, to try and let them off the hook. But no, so they wound Susie up, and you know, it did get very difficult. I mean, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have. But having said that, you know, it had a price.
The atmosphere was bad after.
No, the atmosphere was all right after. It was strained, but yeah, but you see, what really happened was that the crew and everyone else were on my side, and people like Ken Hendel and Leo and you know, the other actors were all appalled at the youngsters' behaviour. So it just you know, I got it done in the end. But the relationship between Susie and Barry and Christopher Sanford and myself was not good. I mean, there was not a lot of communication, but they did what they were told. You know.
Yes, they got the job done.
They got the job done.
Yes.
But it's not the atmosphere that I've made movies in before or since.
Well, yes, you've said on the other commentaries you've done, what happy experiences.
Yeah, they were all happy.
They've all been,
yes. And there was no reason why this shouldn't have been exactly the same. But having said that, you know, the performances suffered. But you know, it's an ill wind. I mean, perhaps now is the time. You know, there was a very interesting story actually when we were cutting this movie. I got a call from Sam Peckinpah's office.
Ah, here we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Dogs, yeah.
And he initially it wasn't. I didn't speak to him. It was somebody else spoke to my editor and said they were casting straw dogs, and they were looking at everybody, and it was there were stories going around. There was this Dustin Hoffman movie, which was being made, and they were looking and they were trying to find the leading lady and one thing and another. So the big publicity story, and it was perfectly true. They were not having difficulty to cast it, and. They asked if they could see something on Judy Huxtable, because she'd been recommended, she'd done The Touchables and one thing and another, and would she be the right person? So we sent the last reel where she gets murdered, which along to them, which was in rough cut stage, but of course it didn't matter because they borrowed it. They said, we'll send a car over for it, we'll have it back to you in 2 hours, and of course because they're filmmakers, they understand, it was in a rough cut stage. Then I got a call from Sam Peckinpah saying, oh, can I have a word with you? And I said, yeah. He said, I just saw this reel. He said of your movie. He said, Judy Huxtable isn't right for it. He said, but he said, Susan George. He said, I saw. He said, I've already seen her. He said, but I thought she was a little too young. But she looks quite good in your movie. He said, can I see another couple of reels? And I was actually rather sort of, I said, we're cutting it. I want to try and get, hey, listen, we'll just borrow it, if we can have it 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'll look at it at night, and can I have borrow a couple of reels? But the stuff that you've got on Susan. So we lent him a couple of reels of the rough cut. And it was duly returned to us, so we didn't lose any time. And the next thing we know, 3 days later, he'd taken her on. But he did get on to me. He did call me and say, I understand you had some problems with her. And I said, oh, no. I said, that's just, I didn't want to talk her out of a big job,
Yeah, absolutely. That was very big of you.
No, it wasn't big of me. I mean, she it
wasn't her fault, as you said.
Well,
she carried
she was naughty, and she admitted it later. But and Susie was not the easiest girl to work with at that time. I mean, but it's totally understandable. I've a lot of respect for her since. When I look back on it, and when I used to see her in California and stuff in the ensuing years, I mean, she was a survivor. I mean, she's still the same girl that she ever was, and
Well, it's all water under the bridge.
It is water under the bridge.
We've just had a lovely scene in which a nighttime scene in which the judge approaches the two young people and encircles them in his sort of spidery way. He encircles the pair of them. And
Which scene was this?
It was the scene we've just had. It's a scene outside after dinner or something, and he's just talking to Susan and Barry, and he's in his white DJ, and he kind of encircles them.
Yes.
And Cyril Ornadell puts a lovely musical kind of spidery quality to it at just that moment. But in fact, in this score, and it's a very distinctive sound from the early 70s, he uses the cymbalom a lot, which is a sort of Hungarian stringed instrument that people like John Barry used a lot.
Yeah.
Which they used to use as a kind of shorthand, I think, for vaguely exotic European intrigue and mystery.
Yeah.
So Ornadell uses it a lot in this. It's very effective.
Yeah.
And particularly at that moment when it gives that little spidery moment when he encircles the pair of them. And again, after a moment like that...
It's a sort of sitar sound, you mean?
A bit like that, yes, a bit like that. And, it's very distinctive. You can hear it on the Persuaders and any
That was the Soames Villa.
Really?
Yes.
The Soames Villa?
Yes. Who was the famous... Gosh, that was a nice scene out of the ocean, wasn't it?
Yeah, Touch of Dr. No.
Touch of Dr. No, absolutely.
Yeah. The Soames, well, again, according to...
Nicholas Soames' father.
Right. But according to Steve Chibnall, the villa was purchased specially for the production.
What do you mean by me?
By you or by the production? Well, you were the production, I guess.
No. I did for a long time have a villa in the Algarve, but no, that was not purchased for the production. No,
right.
That was the Soames villa. That belonged to the Soames family.
Were they visible?
No.
No.
I want to believe we can live like this. I really do. So
Again, we have the two glamorous women here
yeah, but all the heavy stuff.
as daggers drawn kind of half-sisters.
Yeah.
Look around. Does it
But we don't yet know to what degree Judy Huxtable is prepared to go to extort this money and papers from her. I think we're only just beginning to get a grip on the plot at this point, I think. But the again, it doesn't just have period charm. It has a lot of kind of what we might call Algarve charm. It's beautifully photographed.
anyway?
Yes, for that. Yes. Unhappily, I don't think the Algarve is as nice as that now.
No, it's been
I think
overrun,
it's been
has it?
spoiled. Yes, I think we've
Yeah,
got too
yeah.
many Kiss Me Quit hats down there, haven't we?
Kiss me quick. Tell us about your editor here, Tristram Cones.
Yes.
He died in 1977.
Yes, committed suicide.
Really?
Mm.
Right.
Mm,
Any idea
particularly
why?
nasty way. I don't know. He was a troubled man. He became a producer after that. He produced a picture called something Charlie Farthing.
Yes, Charlie Farthing, yes. Right,
Yes,
about 74 or thereabouts.
Yes, he
Yeah.
produced a picture called Charlie Farthing.
Right.
He was a good editor, but he didn't want to be an editor. He wanted to be a producer, and once he'd been a producer, he wanted to be a director. And I think he was a nice man, a gentleman, but troubled.
Yeah.
Is he good?
Well, he'd edited a number of intriguing films. Payroll for Sidney Hayers.
Yeah. Well, he was
Mumsy.
Sid Hayers' pet.
He was his pet
editor. Yeah.
Mumsy Nanny, Sonny and Girlie for Freddie
Yeah.
Francis. Loving Feeling for Norman Warren and Batu Sen and
Yeah.
that setup. And made an unusually large number of pop films. Play It Cool and Every Day's a Holiday. Both of those were Billy Fury.
Well, Play It Cool was Michael Winner, wasn't
And that was Michael Winner directing. Three Hats for Lisa with Joe Brown and Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter with Peter Noon. I don't know why that was. And the end of his editing career was really with AIP. He did the Dr. Phibes film.
That's right, he did, with Bob
Yeah.
Fust.
Yeah, with Bob Fust. But he only worked for you twice. It was this and just beforehand, Cool It Carol.
Cool It Carol. Yes,
Yeah.
did a good job, I thought, on Cool It Carol. Did a very good job on Cool It Carol. This, I think, could have been tightened. Could have been...
It meanders rather, doesn't it?
It meanders,
It particularly starts to meander around now, actually. I think.
Okay, and I accept that and agree. But this was the aftermath of the problems, really, and I'd I think I'd torn pages out of the script.
Oh yes, to literally get the schedule
to
down.
get it done. Yeah. Not as I say, not my happiest movie. I mean, a lot of people look now at this and say that it has a value. But if I had, if I look back on it, I'd say, well, as I say, one of my least favourite films.
Well, with all the
problems.
horrors attached to it,
But
hard to surprise it.
but it was an idyllic situation we had down there. We had a lovely location. Everybody had very nice accommodation. The weather was terrific. There was no reason for them to spoil it.
To spoil it.
Yeah.
Well, they were having fun while the sun shone, I suppose. And,
I don't know.
it was getting a
I don't know.
bit nasty. Now, Murray Smith, along with David McGillivray, is your most prolific screenwriter,
Yes.
as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
He'd just done Cool It Carol for you. After this, he'd do...
Well,
Four
Cool It Carol was
Dimensions.
his first.
After this, he'd do 4 Dimensions of Greta, The Comeback, and Home Before Midnight.
Yeah.
How did you find him?
How did I find Murray?
Yes.
How did I find
How did
him?
you literally find him?
How did I literally find him? Or
yeah.
how did I find him as a person?
Both, if you like.
Well, I found him as a person. I mean, he was a floor manager at Granada,
Right.
and Cool It Carol was his first script. I mean,
Right.
he wouldn't have you believe that, Murray. I mean, Murray would like you to believe that he. Perhaps I should say that at the outset that Murray died on Boxing Day this year.
This last
yeah,
Boxing
I
Day,
mean, in tragically, I mean, Apparently, he went out on his motorcycle on Boxing Day and just came in, sat down, had a cup of tea, and died in the chair.
Really? How
Went
old
out
was
for
he?
it. Murray was 61, probably.
Not old.
No, 61, 62, perhaps.
Hmm.
How did I find him? He was introduced to me, and he produced a slip of paper, a newspaper cutting, about a boy and girl who had come to London.
Yes. This is the genesis of
Cooler Carol.
Mm.
And it was a true story. And it was just a little short article, and in fact, the end that we gave Cooley Carol was we gave it a happy ending, whereas the
actual story,
the boy went to Borstal, but or the equivalent, whatever it was, he went. That's how I met Murray, and he said, "But what do you think of this as an idea?" And I said, "God, I said this is a terrible travesty of justice, and I commissioned the script from him." And that's how I met Murray. Exactly who it was who introduced me, I can't think, but he was at the time a floor manager at Granada.
Well, I mean, after working for you, he had a very prolific television career in terms of writing scripts for well-remembered series: The XYY Man, Hazel, Cold Warrior, Bullman, Dempsey and Makepeace, The Paradise Club. He wrote prolifically for all these. But horror fans will remember his script for one of the Hammer House of Horror stories in 1980, Children of the Full Moon, with Diana Dawes as a kind of werewolf mother.
Right.
A kind of very
Didn't
maternal
know about
werewolf. That was Murray Smith.
Really? So he did write a horror movie?
Well, eventually he did, yes. Well, of course, yes, that's after the comeback. Yeah, I guess the comeback and Children of the Full Moon that's his horror portfolio.
Right, okay. No, he was very into spies. He was fascinated with sort of MI6 and MI5 and all that kind of stuff, and he knew all the people down there.
Well, yes,
and he wrote all these books, didn't he? I mean, he was, and I think he had an association with Frederick Forsyth, didn't he?
Well, it makes sense.
Yes, he did have
given
an association.
The TV series Cold Warrior. And
I see.
Obviously all part of his particular field. Yeah.
Okay.
Espionage and what have you.
Yeah.
Well, the film is. The judge is about to get disposed of because he's got into the car that has previously been nobbled for Barry Evans' purposes, but Barry Evans has gone into town in a different car, having been advised to do so by the Kenneth Hendel character, who obviously doesn't approve of any of this stuff, as we discover at the end when he personally strangles Judy Huxtable. And again, the fact that part of the torture inflicted on Marianne takes place in a steam room, again, is an opportunity to have Susan George not wear many clothes.
Not wear many clothes, yes.
Which is useful if you're trying to sell your movie, I guess. Well, there aren't many reviews of this one.
There aren't many.
Well, not that they can be easily accessed, because, of course, since it was a relatively poorly distributed double bill, really mainly only the trade papers noticed it.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, Marjorie Bilbo in
Screen International, or was it?
Well, today's cinema,
today's
cinema as it was prior to becoming Screen International. She called it. The film came out, by the way, in roughly speaking. It came out in August '71, just over a year after you'd made it.
Yes, there was a delay.
A
delay because of the bankruptcy. Yes, that's right. It was a bankruptcy.
Well,
distributors went bust.
Marjorie Bilbo called it a mishmash of disjointed incidents related only by their sex and violence potential. The exciting title will doubtless ensure good audiences, but only the most easily satisfied of sensation seekers can be expected to enjoy it. Computerized muckraking.
Well,
overacted with a forgivable lack of conviction by a cast who should be nameless. Oh dear.
Oh dear. Well, that's actually that Marjorie Bilbo too. I mean, she was a friend. I mean,
and quite a nice critic by and large.
And was always very kind, rather like Ivan Waterman. Was always very kind to me. She must have. I must have passed her by in Wardour Street or something, and not seen her. And she thought I'd probably cut her or something.
So there's his next film. Well, maybe she just didn't like it. But maybe she did like your other films, but not this one. Yeah. She was a very being a trade reviewer. She was much more clued up.
Oh yes,
the average reviewer on what audiences wanted to see.
Oh yeah, she was a good.
That was the whole point of her reviews, was to tell exhibitors whether this film was worth exhibiting.
Yeah, I think the word was, good in industrial situations or something.
Yes, there's a sort of stratification of what type of audiences would like what type of film.
Yeah.
Was this an art house film, or would it go well in, I don't know, the Northeast or or wherever? Christopher Sanford was. As we said, he'd come to prominence in Coronation Street, but he got the part in Coronation Street from having done a Wesker play at the Royal Court, oddly enough. But his position in the pop world really came about when he started a folk group. This is prior to the acting, followed by a skiffle group, and then he had his hit off the back of Walter Potts in Coronation Street, and then another hit called, this is a very convoluted title, The I Wish They Wouldn't Always Say I Sound Like the Guy from the USA Blues. Apparently this was a hit too. And he made a whole LP of musical songs called A Little Bit Off the Top.
Okay.
And when he was making this movie, he'd just finished playing Mr. Toots in a BBC version of Dombey and Son, one of those Dickensian classic serials. That was in '69. But also around that time, of course, he'd done Cool-It Carol for you. He was also Jane Asher's fiancé in Deep End, which was that Skolimowski film that was filmed in England.
Yes, with that very interesting young actor.
John Moulder Brown.
John Moulder Brown,
yes, that's right.
Another of Hazel's clients, of course.
Right. And like Judy Huxtable, he was in Up the Chastity Belt, and then he was in a film called, a film in which David Niven, of all people, played Dracula, called Vampira.
Yeah.
But when he was making this, he'd had a bit of a sort of career high, because in January 1970, he got the Best Actor Award at the 4th International Film Festival in New Delhi. For playing Chopin in a Spanish film, which I can't quite pronounce the name of, but I'll have a go, called Gutrazenka. What became of that film, I don't know. But yes, he played Chopin and got a Best Actor Award for it. So he's on a bit of a personal career-type high when he came to do this one. But it's certainly an extraordinary career, producing particularly Belgian and French artists, and meanwhile maintaining an acting career. Of course, he'd been one of Tommy Steele's chums in Half a Sixpence. That was probably his biggest credit up to this time. But
what, film version?
The film version.
Oh, the film
version. Yeah, that's right. But yes, another of, I mean, you weren't vividly aware that he was a pop star, but you do tend to, a sort of pop star, you did tend to use pop stars here and there, didn't you? Jess Conrad, John Lydon, Jack Jones.
Only inadvertently, yes.
It wasn't a deliberate policy.
No,
I want pop stars in my movies.
No. I mean, and Jesse, I don't think, Jesse was primarily an actor. And I suspect that Chris Sanford was primarily an actor that sang. I mean, I think that's what happened. I don't think.
Well, I think after Coronation Street, he actually went on record saying it was tough breaking away from the Wally Potts image.
Yeah.
After Coronation Street, because this record career took off, I think he did actually sort of diversify away from acting for a short while.
Well,
I was coming back into it.
The last I heard of Christopher Sanford was that he was a very prolific voiceover artist, as indeed Ray Brooks was. And then Chris was very good at doing the funny voices, the silly voices and the zany, crazy voices. But then I believe he has his own voiceover company.
Yes, yeah, and particularly I think
possibly still does have.
Well, certainly he did a very big children's series, which I think was voicing animated characters and what have you.
Yeah.
I think it's about time we talk about Barry Evans.
Yeah.
Because obviously he was difficult at the time and a troubled young man, and he was.
But you could handle him on his own.
Right.
You know, I mean, any of them you could handle on their own. It's just when they all got together.
Right. That's the trouble.
This is like the Sex Pistols.
Well, he was born in Guildford, I believe, in June 1943,
Mm-hmm.
and went to the Central School of Speech and Drama.
Mm-hmm.
And like Christopher Sanford, had appeared in Wesker plays, and subsequently at the National Theatre, in The Royal Hunt of the Sun, and had been directed by Zeffirelli and what have you. And it was from his stuff at the National Theatre that Clive Donner selected him for Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush,
Yeah.
in which he'd been surrounded by all these generic 60s dolly birds, as they were called then. And, of course, later in his career, when he was doing lots of sitcoms, he actually did a newspaper interview in which he talked about his troubled relationship with women,
Right.
and the fact that he'd been in love with Judy Geeson and whoever else, and a number of others. And there were some complaints from them because they remembered things rather differently to the way he remembered
Yes,
them. He got quite a lot of complaint from these people like Judy Geeson.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, after Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush, of course, he immediately plunged into playing Michael Upton in Doctor in the House.
Yeah. Well, he had a successful sitcom career.
But he did feel very strongly that it kind of because I think women apparently found him quite a sex object because he was they wanted to mother him, I think was his idea, because he was very vulnerable. And he was literally vulnerable because his I think he'd been abandoned by his mother and brought up in a Twickenham children's home, and didn't have a good time at school either, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he was very
yes, he was
troubled.
He was troubled
seems to have been.
and known to be, and known to be sort of difficult, but handleable. I mean,
yeah.
But so many people, I mean, without naming other names, I mean, so many people that I used had reputations for being difficult. And when they worked with me, they were like pussycats.
Was that was your influence?
No, I don't know. Particularly some of the older actors, they said, "Oh, he's very difficult. If things are always I never had one
crossword
or one
difficult people.
Any problem at all with any of them.
Well, by the late 70s, he was appearing in another very famous sitcom, which buoyed him along for quite a few years, Mind Your Language,
Yes.
in which he played a teacher of English as a foreign language. And, of course, that series is now considered a little dodgy because we're a bit more racially sensitive now, apparently. Though apparently it's very popular in third world countries, so, go figure. That just shows you, doesn't it? But at that time, in the late 70s, he, reflecting on his difficult reputation, back in the early 70s, he said, I felt in those days that you shouldn't have to do things like publicity and personal appearances. You should be judged entirely on your acting. But I've mellowed now, and I realise that publicity is all part of it. And it's not fair on other people involved with the show to be a recluse. Well, interestingly enough, he ended up as a recluse.
Yes.
And also in 1978, he talking about his troubled relations, he said, I don't get married because I don't think marriage is an enviable state. And the thought of a little offspring horrifies me. It might look like me, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I don't like myself very much physically. For one thing, I've got moles all over me. Imagine a poor little girl with a big mole on her nose being nicknamed Moley like I was. I hated it. I wouldn't want a child to go through that. So his last two films were both sex films.
Yeah.
Under the Doctor, which I guess was a reflection back on his Doctor in the House celebrity, and Adventures of a Taxi Driver for Stanley Long. But ironically, a taxi driver is exactly what he ended up being.
Yeah.
He retired to, I say retired, Claybrook Magna, which I believe is in Leicestershire. I hope I've got that right. And in February 1997, he was found dead in his bungalow under suspicious circumstances. And subsequently, 3 teenagers were found in possession of his white Austin Montego taxi. And they were arrested, in point of fact. And it was quite sad. Some of the obituaries make quite sad reading. And there are quotes from his neighbours. One of his neighbours said, he was quiet, but everyone liked him. I remembered him from Mind Your Language and was gobsmacked when I saw him sitting in one of our cabs. That was one of the people working at the taxi firm. And his own agent, Malcolm Knight, of Malone and Knight, said, having been so immensely well known as a cheerful charmer, he never shook off that image. He wanted to be accepted for roles more in keeping with his real age, but whenever people heard his name, they had a fixed picture in their mind. Eventually, he decided he wanted to give up show business, though recently he had been talking about trying to make a comeback. So it's one of those sad stories, again, where somebody is on the cusp of making a comeback, and then they're snuffed out. It's a strange thing, and it was particularly a sad end.
Sal Mineo.
Yes, there's another one. Yeah. Well, he was knifed, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But yes, found dead in this apparently slightly dilapidated bungalow, and apparently he'd worked for a taxi firm, but over the last 12 months he started up his own taxi firm called Barry's, which is effectively just him, I believe. So obviously he was never, without wishing to be muckraking about it, but he was never content with his lot or himself.
No, I mean, I said Sal Mineo because there was a similarity. I knew Sal very well. He was an old friend, and there was a kind of similarity between Sal and Barry Evans.
Yeah, well, he did have a very soft and appealing and sort of vulnerable quality, which, as you pointed out, is really quite wrong for this alto saxophonist sort of cool guy.
Yeah,
and you've been better off with somebody more hunky like McShane or what have you. But yes, well, that's a shame. I mean, he was finally thinking of making a comeback because he'd done quite a lot of distinguished theatrical work before the sitcom Celebrity. And he could have perhaps gone back to that.
But the trouble was Barry was very much, I think, a man of his time. I mean, he wouldn't have. You couldn't really imagine Barry Evans as a 50-year-old. You know,
one of those guys.
He was a 25-year-old.
Yes.
You know, and that's the way he'd have had to stay.
Well, in fact, his Guardian obituary is quite unequivocal about his life. Perhaps tragedy had always stalked him. Though born in comfortably middle-class Guildford, he was nevertheless in a Twickenham orphanage until he was 17. Though he won a John Gielgud scholarship to the Central School, his life ended before he could achieve many roles of the sort that would have impressed his patron. His was indeed a story of youthful innocence gorged and then destroyed. It's a slightly melodramatic way of putting it, perhaps. But it's a sad story.
Yeah.
Not an unusual story, perhaps. If somebody is vividly identified with a particular type of role at the very beginning of their career, then they're not allowed to age. It's something that generally happens more to women, of course, than to men. But curiously, it happened to Barry Evans. Well, things are gathering to a head here with this, I take it, is day for night shooting?
I'm afraid it is, yes. You shouldn't have green leaves, should you?
Not really. This is nice and blue, but unfortunately the sunlight's dappling the leaves, isn't it? Which is always the problem.
It didn't in the theatrical prints, of course. We did grade this quite well.
Well, maybe it'll be graded for the eventual DVD release. Who knows? Maybe that's a vain hope. I don't know. We'll see. But of the films in this box set, this is clearly not a horror movie.
Yeah.
The others, by modern standards,
with a horror title, though.
With a horror title. The others, I mean, as we discussed with House of Mortal Sin, nowadays a film like that might not be considered a horror movie because it is a straight-ahead, realistic story that just happens to be garnished with grisly killings.
Yeah.
But whereas The Comeback clearly is a horror movie because all the various possibly supernatural visitations Jack Jones gets. Yeah. This one, unique in the box set, is clearly not by any standards a horror movie.
No.
When did you... I guess the first film of yours which could be properly described as a horror movie would be The Flesh and Blood Show.
Flesh and Blood Show, yeah.
Was that were you just tired of the sex films and films like this that didn't turn out right and thought, I want to have a...
Well, what do you do? You're an exploitation filmmaker. You make sex or horror.
One or the other, or both.
One or the other, or both.
And mix them in your case.
And in the case of Flesh and Blood Show, that's exactly what we did. We mixed the two, and And I've got good feelings about the Flesh and Blood show. In fact, Ray Brooks.
Nice film.
Well, Ray Brooks. Well, it's not because of the sex content, which was obligatory. At that time, you had to put that. You had to have your bit of nudity. You either had to have a murder and a bit of nudity within the first 5 minutes. Otherwise, you wouldn't sell the picture to the United States. I mean, that was the way. That's really the way it was.
Grab them by the throat.
Yeah. But I had good feelings about the Flesh and Blood show. It was an interesting thing. It was a real sort of Freddy kind of script. That kind of
picking them off one by one.
Yes. It was
teenagers
actually,
killed every 10 minutes.
It was
10 little Indians. Yes. With a sort of slasher.
People
scenario.
lured to this lonely, derelict theatre.
Yes, but that was directly after Four Dimensions of Greta. I guess as far as making a realistic critique kind of sex film, you'd done that with Kulik Carroll. Four Dimensions of Greta, a complete send-up.
Paul Stacino just now.
Paul Stacino as the Portuguese policeman.
As the Portuguese policeman.
Very striking.
Nice looking, very good looking man. Had done what I don't know what happened to him immediately after that. I don't know what nationality he actually was. Was he Italian? Italian
Stacino
name,
doesn't
Paul Stacino.
Could be. He was a very striking actor.
But he'd done some good work. He'd done some really good film work. Paul Stacino.
Yeah.
But he sort of disappeared after this movie, and one always feels, oh, well, maybe he went back to Spain, or he went back to Italy, or he went back to wherever it was.
Yeah. Well, Hammer fans will remember him from a film called The Stranglers of Bombay, which was 59. Mm-hmm. But after this, he more or less disappeared.
Well, I didn't see him. I mean, he used to be a stalwart of British films.
Oh, absolutely, yes, absolutely. But it was after the Four Dimensions of Greta that you thought that you threw your lot in with horror. Mm-hmm. I think,
yes,
for 5 years or so.
Well, the Four Dimensions of Greta was
a wild
was a wild long shot. I mean, to do a 3D picture. A 3D sex film was.
Of course, you retained the 3D for the Flesh and Blood show.
Yes, indeed, but that was a contractual thing.
Oh, right.
Unfortunately, right. I did a deal with Tygon to pick up certain territories, and they said, "Oh, we must have some 3D in it because the Flesh and Blood show had done so well." Yeah. You know, the Dimensions of Four Dimensions of Greta had done so well.
Wasn't that the film that you wanted to advertise with the phrase "a boob in your lap"?
No, that's David. That's one
McGillivray,
of David McGillivray's
apocryphal story.
Yes.
Oh yes. Well, yes, there are a few of those. But it came a girl in your lap. It became in the end.
Well, because of Buona Devil and from 1953, the Lion in Your Lap.
Yes, that's right. But yes, Four Dimensions of Greta is a very striking, wild kind of movie. But basically, you'd said all you could say in the context of sex films at that stage.
Yes.
Because you can't really go further.
That was just done as a 3D exercise. Wasn't it? And these a couple of good-looking girls in Four Dimensions of Greta. I mean, Lena Skoog.
Lena Skoog.
I mean, we talk about the wonderful figure of Susan George here, but I mean, I'd be bettered only by Lena Skoog.
This is an effective scene.
Yes. Yes. Well, I thought it might get Judy Huxtable the job on Straw Dogs, but it didn't.
Of course, this is the rough cut section that you
This is the rough cut section that we sent to Sam Peckinpah.
And Christopher Sanford, meanwhile, has fallen into a pit.
And I presume this is where Mr. Peckinpah looked at Miss George and said, she looks good.
Send me some more stuff.
Send me some more.
Send me some more,
She looks pretty good.
He's a very striking actor. It remains a mystery why some of these favourite actors of yours weren't picked up by the press.
Well, I think Ken went to Canada or somewhere like that.
Well, he certainly went to South Africa at some stage.
Was it? Well,
he ended in Canada.
Did he end up in Canada?
Well, that's what you told me earlier.
Yes, I thought he died in Canada.
Right.
But maybe I've got it wrong, Jonathan. Maybe it was South Africa.
Well, he certainly appeared in some South African TV and film.
Okay.
productions, which would suggest that he went over there.
But before, if there is...
Well, most of the dramatis personae are now dead.
Yes.
So it could be a reasonable indication that the film is drawing to a close. What was this particular location?
This was a ruined monastery in Montchique,
Right.
which is right at the sort of mountain tops in the Algarve. Whether it's still there, I don't know.
Well, I would imagine it is. It's
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, well, who knows? They might have developed everything else.
and the whole intrigue is now solved. She's going to turn 21. Here's her birthday card.
Yeah.
Which sadly is from the now deceased Barry Evans character.
Yeah.
His death happened off camera. We only saw him when she's in the morgue expecting to see Father's, the judge's body. To her horror, she sees Eli's body instead.
Yeah.
But his killing took place off camera. Were you conscious that perhaps you were over-egging the pudding with killings at this stage?
Perhaps. I don't quite know the reason. Maybe that was one of the pages that was torn out of the script.
Maybe. A big pull away from the Soames villa. And Wheeling Seagull and The Legend, The End.
The Legend, The End, and The Strains of Kathy Green.
Well, that was Die Screaming Marianne, and not
Thank
one of
you
your
for looking at
favourites, but well worth another look. Peter Walker, thank you.
Thank you.